Hello friends, welcome back to story time. Today the story is about Magic Tree House Merlin Missions, Blizzard of the Blue Moon. Magic Tree House Merlin Missions, Blizzard of the Blue Moon by Mary Pop Osborne. Prologue. One summer day, a mysterious tree house appeared in the woods. A brother and sister named Jack and Annie soon learned that the tree house was magic. It could take them to any time and any place in history. They also learned that the tree house belonged to Morgan Le Fay, a magical librarian from the legendary realm of the Camelot. After Jack and Annie traveled on many adventures for Morgan, Merlin, the magician, began sending them on Merlin missions in the treehouse. With help from two young sorcerers named Teddy and Kathleen, Jack and Annie visited 4 mythical places and found valuable objects to help save Camelot. For their next 4 Merlin missions, Jack and Annie were told they must travel to real times and real places in history and prove to Merlin that they could use magic wisely. First, they went on a mission to the city of Venice. Next, they journeyed to the ancient city of Baghdad. On their most recent trip, they visited the city of Paris in 1889. Now they are waiting to hear from Merlin again. Chapter 1. The Last Unicorn. The November sky was grey with clouds. Jack sat reading in front of the living room fire. "Who wants hot chocolate?" his dad called from the kitchen. "Me, please," said Jack. The front door burst open, and with a gust of cold wind, Annie rushed inside. "Jack, guess what?" she whispered. "It's back." "How do you know?" said Jack. "I was walking home from the library." Annie paused to catch her breath. "And I saw a flash in the sky above the woods." The last time that happened. Before she could finish the sentence, Jack jumped up. "Dad, Annie and I are going to go outside for a while," he shouted. "Can the hot chocolate wait till we get back?" "Sure, have fun," their dad called from the kitchen. "I have to get my pack," Jack said to Annie. "Meet you on the porch." "Don't forget the rhyme book," said Annie. Annie slipped outside and Jack ran up to his room. He grabbed his backpack. He checked to make sure their book of magic rhymes was inside. Good, there it was. Jack charged back downstairs. He pulled on his boots, put on his jacket, tied a scarf around his neck, grabbed his mittens, and headed out the door. "Come on," said Annie. Jack could see his breath in the cold air. Brrr. He said, "Let's hurry." Jack and Annie ran down the street and into the Frog-Creek woods. They wove between the trees, their boots crunching through the fallen leaves. Jack stopped. The magic tree house was back, high in a tall oak tree. It was silhouetted against the grey November sky. "You were right," he said to Annie. "Good work." "Thanks," Annie said. She ran to the rope ladder and started up. Jack followed her. When they climbed inside the treehouse, Jack and Annie saw a book and scroll of parchment paper lying on the floor. Annie picked up the scroll, unrolled it, and read aloud. Dear Jack and Annie of Rock Creek, I am sending you on one more mission to prove that you can use magic wisely. This poem will guide you. The very last unicorn is now hidden well by those who have put him under a spell. 4 centuries, 4 decades from that afternoon, at the end of November, before the blue moon, he will wake once more and be free to go home. If you call out his name, divine flower of Rome, you must coax him to stand once his name is spoken. His chain will break and the spell too be broken. Then a young girl must love him and show him the way, lest he be trapped forever on public display. If he loses this chance to rise and depart, all magic will fade from his horn and his heart. A unicorn? breathed Annie. I love him already. I will show him the way. But this poem is really hard to understand, said Jack. What kind of research book did Morgan send us? He picked up the book that had been left for them by Morgan Le Fay, the librarian of Camelot. The cover showed a row of skyscrapers. The title was New York City Guidebook 1938. New York City? said Annie. I love New York City. Remember the great time we had there with Auntie Mallory? Yeah, I love it too, said Jack. But why would there be a unicorn in New York City in 1938? A unicorn is an ancient fantasy creature. New York City is a real place and 1938 is not even that long ago. You're right, said Annie. It sounds like a hard mission. But don't forget we have Teddy and Kathleen's magic rhymes to help us. Yeah, said Jack. He pulled out the book given to them by their friends Teddy and Kathleen, 2 young enchanters of Camelot. The problem is, we can only use each rhyme once, and we have already used 7 out of the 10. Which means we still have 3 left, said Annie. What are they? Pull a cloud from the sky, said Jack. Cool, said Annie. Yeah, it is, said Jack. But I'm not sure it will be much use. He looked back at the book. Find a treasure you must never lose, he said. Hey, that's a real good one, said Annie. The unicorn's a treasure. So the rhyme could take care of our whole mission. But it only partly fits, said Jack. You could call the unicorn a treasure, but once we find him, we have to lose him. He has to go back home. Oh, right, said Annie. What else? Your favorite, said Jack. Turn into ducks. Annie laughed. I can't wait to use that one, she said. I hope we never use that one, said Jack. He didn't want to waddle around and quack like a duck. These leftover rhymes don't seem very helpful to me. Well, let's just wait and see, said Annie. But now, she held up Morgan's research book and smiled. Jack nodded. New York City, here we come, he said. He pointed at the book's cover. I wish we could go there. The wind started to blow. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Chapter 2. Who are they? Snow blew into the treehouse. Jack and Annie wore wool coats, hats, and mittens. Jack's canvas backpack had turned into a leather briefcase with buckles and a shoulder strap. Jack and Annie looked out the window. Below the treehouse was a wide, snow-covered field that ended in a wall of evergreen trees. Beyond the trees was a city skyline. This is definitely New York, said Annie. See, the Empire State Building. Remember our visit to the top? She pointed to a faraway building that rose above the others. This must be Central Park. I remember that big field. Yeah, I do too, said Jack. But we have landed in New York in 1938. It was different back then. He opened their research book and read from the introduction. The city of New York is the largest city in the Western Hemisphere. It covers an area of 322 square miles. Jack closed the book. Wow! Even in 1938, New York was a huge city, he said. This is going to be like looking for a needle in a haystack. I will read our mission poem again, said Annie. She read the first verse aloud. The very last unicorn is now hidden well by those who have put him under a spell. Okay, so this unicorn was put under a spell, said Jack. And he must be hidden somewhere in New York, or Merlin wouldn't have sent us here. Right, said Annie. She read the next verse. 4 centuries, 4 decades from that afternoon, at the end of November, before the blue moon. What's a blue moon? Asked Annie. Looking up, I have heard that expression before. It's when you have 2 full moons in the same month, said Jack. It doesn't happen very often. Oh, said Annie. She read on. He will wake once more and be free to go home. If you call out his name, divine flower of Rome. Wait, does that mean the unicorn's name is divine flower of Rome? Asked Jack. I guess, said Annie. She read on. You must coax him to stand once his name is spoken. His chain will break and the spell too be broken. Then a young girl must love him and show him the way, lest he be trapped forever on public display. If he loses this chance to rise and depart, all magic will fade from his horn and his heart. So, I am the young girl, said Annie, and I have to help him get home, or his magic will fade away forever. Right, said Jack. Okay, let's review. There is a unicorn on public display somewhere in New York City. He is under a spell. The spell runs out in late November before a blue moon, but he will only wake up when someone calls his name, which is divine flower of Rome. Then a young girl, you must love him and show him the way home. Great, said Annie. Let's get started. Get started? How? Said Jack. Maybe we should talk to some New Yorkers, said Annie. We can ask them if they know anything about a unicorn in New York City. She looked out the window. There are some people in the park right now. Jack looked out. Through the falling snow, he saw girls crossing the field carrying skates. He saw two people standing on top of a small hill. One wore a cap and the other a long raincoat. If we start asking people about unicorns, they will think we are crazy, said Jack. Who cares, said Annie. Maybe someone will at least know something that can help us. Let's go down. She started down the ladder. Jack quickly packed up their books. He buckled his bag and followed her. When they stepped onto the ground, Jack and Annie looked around. The skaters were gone. The two people on the hill were gone too. Where would everybody go? Said Jack. I don't know, but we will find someone else. Come on, said Annie. Jack and Annie started across the wide field. The snow was falling fast and furiously. The wind blew harder. Look, a frozen pond, said Annie, pointing. That must be where the skaters were coming from. Wet snow stuck to Jack's glasses. He wiped them off so he could see. No one was skating on the pond now. Whirlwinds of powdery snow swirled over the ice. Keep going, said Jack. Hey, they kept trudging through the snow. Hey, look, remember that? Said Annie. What? Said Jack. He wiped the snow off his glasses again. He saw a merry-go-round. Oh, yeah. On their trip to New York with their Aunt Mallory, they would take a ride on it. But now, the riderless painted horses looked sad and lonely. I feel like we are the last living creatures in Central Park, said Jack. Which way do we go now? Asked Annie. Which way did we come from? It was hard to see anything in the white haze of the falling snow. The buildings bordering the park and the skyscrapers in the distance had appeared. Let's see what our book says, said Jack. He unbuckled his leather briefcase and pulled out their research book. He found a picture of Central Park and read. Central Park is a vast natural area in the middle of New York City. The park has 32 miles of winding footpaths and covers 840 acres of land. It has rock formations, woods, and many bodies of water. It also has... Okay, got it, said Annie. It's a big park. Is there a map that shows where we are? Jack tried to read from the index, but the wind and snow made it impossible. He stuffed the book back into his briefcase. Forget it, he said. Let's just try to get out of the park. Jack and Annie turned away from the lonely merry-go-round and walked across the snow. A gust of wind blew Jack's cap off. As he turned around to grab it, he saw a couple walking a short distance behind them. The two people looked like teenagers. They were walking with their heads bowed against the wind. The girl wore a dark cape with a hood. The boy wore a hat and a tan raincoat with a belt. Hey, look, Jack said to Annie. But at that moment, the wind shook the trees and big clumps of snow fell from the branches. Jack and Annie ducked and covered their heads. When the wind died down, Jack looked around for the couple. They are gone now, he said. Who is gone? Said Annie. Who did you see? Two teenagers, I think, said Jack. A boy and a girl. We saw them earlier from the treehouse. I think they might be following us. Wait a second, said Annie. Two teenagers? A boy and a girl? Following us? Who does that remind you of? A big smile crossed Jack's face. Teddy and Kathleen? He said. Think about it, said Annie. On our last 3 missions, it seemed like Teddy and Kathleen were always nearby, wearing disguises ready to help us when we needed it. Right, said Jack. We could sure use their help now. He turned around. Hello, he shouted. Hello, Annie yelled. But the wind answered them with a howl. More clumps of snow blew down on Jack and Annie. Let's get going, said Annie. They will find us sooner or later. They always do. Thanks for watching the video. Continue my next chapters in the next video. Thank you so much. Bye.